Hi, and welcome to another edition of Round Robin. I am not Robin McCormick. I am Mike Holtzclaw, and I am filling in. And today in the studio, to promote the Blackbeard Pirate Festival, we have our old friends, Constable Heartless and Nancy Whiskey. How are you guys today?
Ahoy there. It's good to be with you.
And the Constable has brought with him a concertina. And will you favor us with a little music to start the show?
I am musically challenged, however. Who lives in a pineapple under the sea? Oh, wrong TV show.
Oops. It works.
It works.
It works. So you're excited for the Blackbeard Festival coming up?
We're going to have a phenomenal festival. Of course, we have a phenomenal festival every year just for the town folk of Hampton. We try to bring the history alive. Hampton's history is so phenomenal.
It really is. I talk about that all the time, that even people who live here, I think, don't fully appreciate the breadth of the history here.
There's more history in Hampton than all of the other historic sites in the country combined. And a lot of our history others take credit for. It's like that little shanty town up the street known as Colonial Williamsburg. Most of that history occurred here in Hampton, not up there. And my goodness, their best history is from the Great War, the war between the states, not colonial days. Of course, William and Mary did get their start with pirate booty. That's a true fact.
True. And yet their nickname is not the Pirates. The nickname is in Hampton.
Yes.
So, what do you think the fascination is that people have with pirates? Why do, not just kids, but people of all ages, there's this fascination with historic piracy?
Well, part of it is the life of the pirate. It was a merry one, mighty short for the most part, but a merry one. And you have to think about the pirates as being the hippies of the 18th century. You know, where in Woodstock was peace, love, flower power, everything was groovy. And the pirate day, it was arg. But still, the lifestyle was the same. The pirates were free, they were independent, and they were the first to do many things. For instance, democracy. On a pirate ship, everything was open to a vote. No matter what station in life the seaman had, his vote counted. The only time the captain's rule was supreme was during an actual sea battle. And those were actually kind of rare, because most people didn't fight the pirates. They just simply gave up, you know, when they saw the pirate ship, which was good for business.
Not much point in fighting the pirate if you're not a pirate yourself.
Well, that's true. And plus, if you have to use your cannons, you could sink the ship, and then your treasure's at the bottom of the sea. And it was a whole lot easier to let the other ship know that they had our treasure. It was just on their ship temporarily until we retrieved it.
Nancy, what drew you to piracy?
The history. I love pirate history. Most people aren't aware that it was a very democratic society and that the captain served at the pleasure of the crew. And if the crew were fed up with the cruel captain, they could toss him overboard and elect a new one.
There's more of them than there is of him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's just ripe with history up and down the East Coast as well as all over the world.
Did you start learning about that when you were a kid, or when did you really get turned on to it?
I think I learned most of the detail shortly after I started with the crew about 10 years ago. But bits and pieces came to me in studies of other historical areas, and it just kind of blossomed into, my history is primarily Scottish. So the Scots played very much into piracy on both sides. So it was partly in learning that I learned an appreciation for pirates.
And when did you become a pirate?
Oh, well, I've always been fascinated with history, and I worked for the city for a very long time, wearing one of the funny blue uniforms. So I was around at the very beginning, and I had done some living history interpretation before that, mostly Revolutionary and Civil War. So when I found out about the pirates and the actual connection to the city of Hampton, it was a natural fit. So even while I worked for the city, I was kind of in charge of for the police department doing the special events aspect, and so I just helped it get off the ground, starting from OpSale 2000 to what it's grown into today, and again focusing in on the phenomenal city history. This was the hub of all of the commerce. Hampton was the oldest continuously English-speaking colony in the New World. It's the oldest county when it was Elizabeth City County, which has a tremendous amount of history. And then all of the other history after the American Revolution. And if people don't realize that if it wasn't for the little battle in 1775 off of South King Street, we'd be celebrating the King's birthday even today. It was that small battle between patriots and the most powerful military force in world history at the time, England. That was the catalyst to allow the southern colonists to join the northern colonists, and the American Revolution was born. So the history here is just, and it's a shame more people don't know about it.
I talk about this all the time, from the colonial times all the way up to the space program.
Oh yes, this is the home of the space program.
It happened here in Hampton.
Yeah, and Langley Field, with the, I still call it the Army Air Corps.
Yeah.
The biplanes sinking the first ships out in the Chesapeake Bay with bombs to see the viability of, aircraft against ships. And of course, then you're right, the space program, Gemini, Apollo, Mercury, it's all right here. The wind tunnels.
Yeah.
It's just so much here in Hampton to be appreciated about the entire history. And with the pirates, we try to represent a good portion of the history. However, we always are mindful that we're always going to do it in a children and family friendly environment.
Exactly.
We got our claim to fame with the Hampton Blackbeard Pirate Festival as being the third best festival in the world. We beat the Cayman Islands. They came in fourth. But we are number one in the world when it comes to an event like ours that are truly children and family friendly, and we will not compromise on that aspect. So when we have our entertainment and our sea battles and our reenactments, that portion is always in our mind to make sure everything is appropriate for everyone in the family.
Right.
So talk about the recreations and the sea battles. That's a balancing act. It has to be family friendly.
Right.
It has to be kid friendly. But you don't want it, I would guess, to be a cartoon.
Right.
You want it to have a semblance of historical accuracy.
Yeah.
How do you balance that?
Sometimes it gets very difficult. But
Cannon fire works.
Yeah, cannon fire. Everyone loves cannon fire. And, we reenact the Blackbeard's last battle. Blackbeard does lose his head. Of course, this year my theme is Blackbeard Strikes Back, and that you have to wait for that to come to the festival. But again, we are able to do actually where Blackbeard loses his head, but it's not going to shock the little ones, and which is very, very important. And when we put the trial of the pirates at Mill Point Park, we do it in a manner in which we can relate the history and the evils that were actually done by pirates, but we do it in a manner in which everyone can actually enjoy it. They learn the history, but it doesn't shock the conscience.
And that's one of the great things about a festival like this, is that it's fun and it's entertainment, but you learn history, even if maybe you don't realize you're learning history.
Sure, we
It's
sneak it in
sinking
there.
Isn't that something you guys are aiming for?
Absolutely. We sneak history in every chance we get.
Well, this year, like in past years, we will have a children's area specific for the little ones, and I'll have mermaids there for the little ones. Then, we have the historic encampment, which we actually bring the history alive, and you'll see the skills and talents. And that's one of the things that we try to preserve, is the skills and talents from the ancient mariner, because it's stuff you actually use virtually every day and just don't realize it. And then, of course, and at the waterfront this year, I will have more mermaids, and that's where the sea battles will be, down at the docks of Hampton by the hotel. So it's going to be phenomenal, but again, it's very educational. It's amazing when you can take a youngster and something as politically incorrect as a cannon, but when you explain what it actually takes to fire a cannon from a ship that's rocking, pitching, and yawing to hit another ship that's rocking, pitching, and because you're not shooting at the ship. You're taking that cannonball and you're lobbing it up over the air to where that ship is going to be when the cannonball gets there. So you have physics, chemistry, geometry, trigonometry, earth science, weather.
Pirates didn't have computers. They used slide rules.
Well, that's part of it, and there were a lot of instruments that were developed just for that. And if you take the 16th and 17th century naval artillery manual and you present it to a modern day PhD in physics, they're almost lost. Because it's a very complex and exact science, and there's so much earth science and everything involved. So we're able to teach that, and something as simple as making rope, because in the 18th century you couldn't run down to Walmart and buy rope for your ship. You had to make it. And so all of these a lot
of skills.
It's a lot of skills.
It's interesting because you mentioned the encampment, and a lot of people, if you say picture a pirate, they picture the pirate sword fighting, stealing money, drinking rum, but that leaves another 23 hours of the day when they're doing work. Well, maybe they're making rope.
Pirates or privateers, today's privateer is going to be somebody else's pirate tomorrow. The actual aspect of fighting on the high sea was such a low priority because they were sailors first. And you had to man that ship, you had to sail it, you had to repair it. You had to visit different ports of call, so you had to become somebody else if you were at a port of call. And so all of those skills and talents, and it's like just getting to that other port with the navigation. You didn't have GPS or Loran or electronics. The batteries were always dead. So, you had to dead reckon, you had to do celestial navigation. You had to, because a lot of times you didn't have navigation charts, you had to create them. So there was just so many skills and talents. And the pirates were first to do a lot of that. For instance, pirates were the first to have public education for their young, because you needed a new crop of privateers to man the private ships of war. And so they had to teach the navigation skills and so forth. Hospitals. Pirates created hospitals. People don't realize that. And of course, it really wasn't always for the sailor. It was the sailor's activity when they were in port, because the ladies, you had to make sure that they were healthy, because otherwise the sailors would become ill and would not be able to sail ships. So that's the aspect of the hospitals. But on the pirate ship, you did have a ship surgeon, and we have our own ship surgeon.
We do.
And he can lop off a limb in a heartbeat if he has to, and he's actually a peg-leg pirate, Mr. Cutter, and everyone loves Mr. Cutter when at the festivals. So you had a surgeon. The pirates are the first to do workman's compensation insurance.
Absolutely.
You signed the articles, and when you signed the articles agreeing to comply with the rules of the ships, it also guaranteed what you would get if you lost an eye or a hand or a leg, or you became incapacitated, how many shares of the booty that you were going to wind up with. So
and retirement.
And retirement, yeah, if you live that long. And oh, by the way,
401k kicks in at age 30.
But at age 17.
Yes,
actually.
exactly.
By the age 20, you're already old and decrepit. But what do you call a pirate or privateer that has 2 hands, 2 arms, 2 eyes, 2 legs?
What do you call him?
The new guy.
Well, Constable Heartless and Nancy Whiskey, thank you guys so much for coming in. Prepare to play us out on your concertina here.
Yes, just remember the dates of the festival.
I was just going to say, the Blackbeard Festival is June 3 in downtown Hampton, and it will be a good time for all.
Always.
This has been Round
Absolutely.
Robin. Thank you so much. Please play us out.